Imagine you set an alarm, but you just don't care. That's basically every morning for a sloth. Sloths hold the title of the slowest mammals on Earth, and it's not just laziness, it's biology doing something absolutely wild. When a sloth hangs motionless in the trees, it can actually switch off its internal thermostat, the system that keeps your body temperature stable. Instead, it lets its temperature rise and fall with the environment, just like a reptile does. No energy wasted regulating heat, so everything else slows down too, including digestion. But here's where it gets really interesting. Sloths have the lowest metabolic rate of any mammal, often producing less than half the energy you'd expect for their body size. Scientists finally got an answer to why. A brand new 2026 study published in the journal BMC Biology sequenced the full genome of a two-toed sloth for the very first time and compared it to its closest relatives, armadillos and anteaters. What they found hiding in the sloth's DNA? Jumping genes. These are sections of DNA that literally copy and paste themselves into other parts of the genome. In humans, jumping genes are linked to cancer, but in sloths, they might be the secret to living life in the slow lane in the best way possible. Here's the wild part. These jumping genes first appeared in the last common ancestor of all living sloths about 30 million years ago, and they've been passed down to every sloth since. The genes that survived are directly connected to the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. Sloths basically evolved genetic backup systems to keep their energy production running even when their mitochondria are operating in ultra-low power mode. And here's something most people don't know. Sloths can actually swim. Pretty well too. They'll cross entire rivers just to find a mate, but they only climb down from the trees about once a week to go to the bathroom. And that short trip to the ground is one of the most dangerous moments of their entire life. All of this, the slow digestion, the low energy, the hanging around, is a masterclass in doing more with less. And here's why this matters beyond the rainforest. Many human diseases, diabetes, aging, neurodegeneration, muscle loss, come down to problems with energy production and mitochondrial function. By understanding how sloths stay healthy on almost no energy at all, scientists hope to unlock new research into organ preservation, aging, metabolic disease, and even long-duration space travel. So the world's slowest mammal might just be our fastest path to some of the biggest breakthroughs in human medicine. Not bad for an animal that naps 20 hours a day. If you learned something today, hit subscribe. It won't take long, even a sloth could do it. But wait, we've only scratched the surface of how strange and brilliant sloths really are. Let's talk about that metabolism in more detail, because when we say slow, we mean genuinely, shockingly slow. A sloth takes about 30 days to digest a single leaf. One leaf. Your last meal has probably already left your body by the time a sloth finishes its breakfast from last month. And their movement speed on the ground? About 0.03 miles per hour. For comparison, the average human walks at 3 miles per hour. That means you are 100 times faster than a sloth just by taking a casual stroll. Even in the trees where sloths are most comfortable, they only move at about 0.15 miles per hour. They are not in a rush. They have never been in a rush. Rushing is not part of the plan. But here's the genius of it. They don't need to be fast because they've solved survival in a completely different way. Most animals stay alive by running from predators or fighting back. Sloths do neither. Instead, they became invisible. Their fur has a unique texture that actually grows algae on it. Yes, real green algae, turning their coat into a living, breathing camouflage system. From above, a sloth hanging in a tree looks exactly like a clump of leaves or moss. Eagles, their main predators, fly right past them. Jaguars on the ground have no idea they're there. And the algae isn't just for hiding. Scientists believe sloths may actually eat some of it, supplementing their nutrient-poor leaf diet. Their fur is essentially a tiny ecosystem. It also hosts moths, beetles and fungi. A sloth isn't just an animal, it's a whole neighborhood. Now, let's go deeper into what's actually happening inside that body. The average mammal has a heart rate of around 70 to 100 beats per minute. A sloth's heart rate beats at about 40 to 50 times per minute while awake and drops even lower during rest. Their breathing rate is similarly reduced. Their muscles are about 30% less dense than other mammals of similar size. Less muscle means less energy needed to maintain the body. Everything is stripped down, optimized, and running on the bare minimum. And yet, sloths are not weak. Don't let the slowness fool you. A sloth's grip is one of the strongest relative to body size in the animal kingdom. Their curved claws lock around branches so securely that sloths have been found still hanging from trees after death, because even without effort, the grip holds. They sleep hanging, they eat hanging, they give birth hanging. They spend nearly their entire lives upside down, and their organs are actually anchored to their ribcage to stop them pressing on the lungs. Their entire body has been redesigned from the inside out to make this lifestyle work. Speaking of sleeping, sloths in the wild sleep around 8 to 10 hours a day. You've probably heard the 20-hour number. That actually comes from studies done in captive sloths, who sleep more due to the stress of captivity and lack of natural stimulation. Wild sloths are more active than we thought. They're just still very, very slow about it. Now, here's something that will genuinely surprise you. Sloths are ancient, not just evolutionarily old, though they are that too, but their ancestors were some of the most extraordinary creatures to ever walk this planet. Meet the giant ground sloth. These were not small tree hangers. We're talking animals the size of elephants. Megatherium, one of the most famous species, could stand nearly 20 feet on its hind legs and weighed up to 4 tons. It walked the Americas for millions of years, right alongside early humans. And then, around 10,000 years ago, they disappeared. Scientists believe a combination of climate change and human hunting drove them to extinction. The sloths we have today are the small, tree-dwelling survivors of a once massive and incredibly diverse family. So when you look at a sloth hanging sleepily in a tree, you're looking at the last living descendants of giants. Let's come back to the DNA study for a moment, because there's one more layer worth exploring. The researchers didn't just find jumping genes, they found that sloths have an unusually high number of them compared to other mammals. Their genome is packed with these copy and paste DNA elements, and the specific ones that stuck around, the ones evolution kept, are the ones tied to energy. That's not a coincidence. That's natural selection at work over tens of millions of years, carefully keeping the genetic tools that helped sloths thrive while filtering out everything else. What this tells us is that slowness wasn't an accident. It wasn't a flaw that sloths survived despite. Slowness was the strategy. Evolution looked at the dense, leaf-filled canopy of South American rainforests and said the winner here isn't the fastest animal, it's the one that needs the least. And sloths won. They've won for 30 million years. They outlived the Ice Age, they outlived their giant ground-dwelling cousins. They are still here, quietly hanging in the trees, running their bodies on near nothing, growing algae gardens in their fur, occasionally swimming across rivers, and not once worrying about being late. There's almost something philosophical about it. In a world that rewards speed, productivity, and constant output, the sloth picked a completely different path, and it worked. Scientists studying sloths aren't just learning about one unusual animal, they're uncovering biological principles about energy, efficiency, and survival that could reshape how we think about the human body. How do we preserve organs for transplant longer? How do we slow the damage of aging? How do we keep cells alive in low-oxygen environments, like deep space? The sloth has been quietly running these experiments for millions of years. We're just now
now starting to read the results. So the next time someone calls you slow, maybe take it as a compliment. The slowest mammal on Earth has survived for 30 million years, carries an entire ecosystem on its back, has a grip that outlasts death, and might hold the key to the future of human medicine. Not bad. Not bad at all. That's it for today's episode of Berry Explains. If this video made you see sloths a little differently, share it with someone who needs a reminder that slow and steady doesn't just win the race, sometimes it wins evolution itself. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.